Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Saturday upgrade commander build video of the Tier 6 Pan-Asian destroyer, the Anshan. So there was a Friday highlight, which will be at the end of this video if you didn't catch this ship, this build in action. So I'm going to go over a few different possibilities with the commander today. We can talk a little bit about the upgrades, and we'll be looking, of course, at the armor and modules, combat signals, all those things. So let's just hop right into it. So I really do like to switch up between doing more the high tier ships and then coming down here to the mid tier, because mid tier isn't too complicated, especially for newer players or players who are still figuring out the game. I think Anshan is a really nice destroyer overall, and I quite like her. I'm a little saddened it's taken me so long to actually get around to playing her and then also featuring her here on the channel. But let's go talk about what type of destroyer is she. Is she a gunboat destroyer? Is she a torpedo destroyer? Or is she a hybrid? Yes. I think Anshan is flexible in terms of how you want to build her. I don't think she shines completely strong when you talk about, a torpedo destroyer. I mean, you have Fubuki, you have Shinonome do really well in that role. You talk about the gunboat role, at tier 6, it's kind of what comes to my mind instantly is the Aigle, the tier 6 premium French destroyer. I think even Farragut does quite well. Maybe I think the Gallant does decently well too. I'm having a hard time remembering that. Where perhaps Anshan fits best in being a hybrid destroyer, in that she gets the best of both worlds, but you can favor her building her into torpedoes. You can favor building more into her guns. Yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about that as we get into it, and you kind of see when we talk about the commander build. But nothing too complicated here with the armor scheme. Pretty traditional for a tier 6 destroyer. You just have 16mm plating covering the side plating, fore end and aft end, and then a 10mm superstructure. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's see. Let's go ahead. I'll leave those up for now. Well, let's just take that off. So as a premium destroyer, you don't have to invest in grinding for any additional modules. Granted, you do get an option to choose between two here, which we'll talk about. But in starting off with the guns, these are 130mm guns. So this is actually, the Anshan is more of a Soviet destroyer. So she's a Pan-Asian destroyer disguised, or a Soviet destroyer disguised as a Pan-Asian destroyer. So that kind of, for those of you who maybe been playing the game more, it gives you an idea. Perhaps she does favor the guns, perhaps a little bit more. But Wargaming did something interesting in tweaking her towards the torpedo side when they introduced her into the game. So these 130mm guns have 5-second reload time. Your stock 180-degree turn time, if you don't build into them like we have in the third slot, is 30-second 180-degree turn time. That's like battleship traverse speed. So we've taken the main battery mod 2 in the third slot to help get it to 26.1. And of course we can even lower that more if we take grease of gears on our commander, which you don't currently have. And then HE shell damage 1900, AP shell damage 2500. You can definitely reach out in smack broadside cruisers, especially if you get close range to them. You can definitely get some black ribbons with these Soviet guns, so to speak. In terms of her health pool, we have an enhanced skill on our commander being the survivability expert. If it was a standard non-enhanced skill, our hit points right now would be 16,800. So I'm going to do some math here, if I can do it on the fly. So basically what we've done is, if you don't take into account those hit points, I think we're like, our stock would be 14,000 hit points, because survivability expert adds the standard version. Oh wait, no, I think I got that wrong. We'll talk about that when we get to the commander, okay? But we have a robust health pool. I think she's among the top 10, top 8 in terms of hit point pool size. Maybe it's a little better. I was looking at a lot of different filters and having a hard time keeping what is what straight. And then you get two different things with the torpedoes. So you get the typical Soviet destroyer torpedoes. That's the mid to low tier, and that is a typically 4-kilometer range. But they'll have pretty good speed, right? So here you see the reload time is even shorter, 63 seconds. And again, this is reflecting our commando build right now. As we've built, this commander has built into torpedoes. It's actually my Yuyan commander on the Anshan right now, but we'll get into that. And then you see, the 4 kilometer range, 14,400 damage. So the damage is unchanged, no matter, regardless of which torpedoes you have mounted. You see these are faster, 68 knots, detectability range +1, 1.3 kilometer. Or you can have the 5351 torpedoes, which have a 71.1 second reload time fully built into them. I think stock without building in, they're like 79 something seconds, not taking fielded tubes on the commander. But we have the 8 kilometer range, so this is a little bit of a step in a different direction to go from a Soviet destroyer that actually at mid-tier can do 8 kilometer range, meaning we can stealth launch these torpedoes because we have a detectability range of 6.3 and taking concealment on our commander. So that's quite special, but you see the speed, the damage is the same, the speed is 63 knots or slightly slower, but our detectability range is slightly better at 1.2 kilometers. Range 11.9 kilometers, not too bad for being a tier 6. Of course, if you start seeing tier 8s and you're trying to use your guns more, then that might start causing you some issues because there's a decent amount of really good tier 8 cruisers in the game. And then in terms of propulsion, if I remember right, I think Anshan is tied for the top, or it is within top 3 or 4. I'm having a hard time remembering that again. So she is very great in her speed, being 38 knots. So we can actually even take the Serum Mike combat signal and pushes us almost up to 40 knots. So Anshan can get around the map, especially when you're playing those mid-tier maps. She can get around really fast in supporting either flank. Of course, if she sees a tier 8 match, those maps tend to be a little bit bigger. Generally speaking, sometimes they can be the same as what you might see on a tier 6. But she can get around the map really fast, or she can rush targets really fast. Referencing those 4 kilometer torpedoes if you decide to YOLO a ship, which we actually YOLO'd a Fuso yesterday in the Friday highlight, but we did it with these torpedoes because I favor them because we can stealth torpedo with the Soviet destroyer. That's pretty great. Soviet destroyer, Pan-Asian destroyer. For the first slot, I would recommend taking the main Armament mod 1. We'll talk about reducing the risk of your main battery and torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated by -20%, main battery and torpedo tube survivability plus 50%, and main battery repair time and torpedo tube repair time -20%. So in all, this is the clear winner here. You don't need to take magazine modification 1, reducing your ship's magazine chances of your ship's magazine detonating by -70%, because we would just take this Charlie combat signal if we're playing ranked or randoms battle, clan battles, as an example. For the second slot, if you want to take a standard upgrade, I would recommend the engine room protection. Reduces the risk of your engine and steering gears becoming incapacitated by -20%, and then also reducing the repair time of your engine repair time and your steering gear repair time if those should be knocked out as well. If you have coal lying around and you want to make an investment, then I'd recommend the engine boost modification 1. So what this is going to do is it's going to increase the action time on your engine boost. Hence, you can be going more than that excess of 40 knots speed here on the Anshan. So if we get into the armory, if it decides to load one day, it does plus 30%. So that extends out our action time of our engine boost. It's 17,000 coal, but if you utilize a coupon, which I do really recommend trying to utilize this coupon once every month if you have enough coal, you've been playing the game for a bit, then we can get 25% off, which would be, I think, 12,750 coal, if I remember right. This engine boost is a plus 8% maximum speed. So if we were to go 39.9 times 1.08, then we're going 43 knots, or it could be that they rounded up to 43.1, but I doubt it. But 43 knots as a tier 6 destroyer, that's insanely good at tier 6. And then our action time would go up to, I believe, it should be, I want to tell you guys right, I'm going to tell you wrong. Yeah, 156 seconds of action time. So it's over 2.5 minutes. So that's a worthy special upgrade to invest in. If you do really like playing the Anshan, then I would definitely hardcore recommend this. I really want to pick this up. It's just I've been spending a lot of coal lately, so I would rather pick it up when I have the coupon. Third slot, there's 3 options we could talk about here. The one I've elected to go with, with our commander currently being a torpedo build, I've gone for the main battery mod 2 to improve our main battery traverse speed. Right, so without this, it would be a 30-second, 180-degree turn time, and I really don't like having battleship traverse speeds times on my turret traverse on a destroyer. You saw we were actually making good usage of our guns yesterday. I think we did 28,000 damage in that game with our guns, and I think we did over 70,000 with torpedoes. So especially when you're running up, right? So when we had, I think there was the Delhi. We had a sub, there was the kamikaze we had to deal with. So what you find yourself doing with this ship is you're also using your rudder shift, you're using your maneuverability to help get your guns on target faster. So you're turning your ship with the guns in the direction that you want them to go to make up for this long turret traverse. So you'll probably find yourself even doing that sometimes unconsciously, but you have to be mindful so you don't eat a bunch of torpedoes if you find yourself in a knife fight. That's where Anshan doesn't shine as well because of that really long traverse speed compared to other tier 6 destroyers that can handle those themselves a little bit better, and now they have that capability. So then Anshan kind of loses a little bit slightly in my mind when it comes to her calling her a gunboat destroyer. When it comes to these turret traverse, 4 guns, there's other tier 6 destroyers that have 5 guns like Agla, that even have a slightly better reload time than Anshan. So Anshan really gets kind of tilted more into that hybrid destroyer where you could build her out either way. If you wanted to do full-on torpedoes, then you could take Torpedo Tube Mod 1. This is going to increase your ship's torpedo speed by plus 5%. So then these 63 knot torpedoes will become 66 knot torpedoes. And then you're going to decrease the reaction time because your torpedoes are even faster. So I think you would probably be getting the reaction time down. Does it say when I hover on this? Does it say when I hover on the torpedoes? I'm trying to see. I thought they had that on here. Apparently not, unless I'm blind. You get the reaction time down another half second, and I can't remember what the full reaction time was. I think it was around 7 seconds, something like that, for an enemy player to be able to respond. So that's definitely a perk. You reduce the risk of the torpedoes becoming incapacitated while also improving their torpedo traverse speed. The other option is this builds into the guns and the torpedoes, but basically you're reducing the horizontal and vertical dispersion if you're taking the aiming systems mod 1. For me, this would be like the last of the 3 I would recommend here. I feel I'd go for main battery mod 2 first, then torpedo tubes mod 1, and then the aiming systems mod 1, just because 30 seconds is really rough to deal with when we talk about turret traverse on a destroyer. Now this one on the 4th slot is, to me, the clear winner, being the propulsion mod 1. Time taken to reach full engine power when accelerating, negative 50%. This is great. We juked multiple torpedoes from a kamikaze, from the sub. We dodged torps from the Delhi because we accelerated out of the way because we were almost at a near stop. So we baited the torps out and we accelerated away from them. So propulsion mod 1 is fantastic, especially whether you're running up on targets or you are building out into like more of the guns. I think it's just the best all-around one to take. Now I didn't actually look at the filter and comparing the turning circle radius and the rudder shift time here. I think there are probably some other destroyers that are going to beat out Anshan here at tier 6. So I don't know how I'd feel about taking steering gears mod 1, just because, hey, you can stealth torpedo in this, so why not build into the concealment? Why not build into the torpedoes? Because it's not a... I mean, yeah, you have Fubuki, you have Shinanomi, which you can build into the stealth torpedo build, but there's not as many per se that can do it here at tier 6. Moving on to our armament, so you have these 130mm guns have a reload time of 5 seconds. Now these are only 4 guns again, We have some of the other tier 6 destroyers that have 5 guns. Looking at you, Aigla. And then the maximum damage is 1900. Chances of causing fire target 7%. They pin 22mm. Pretty decent shell velocity, 870 meters a second. Maximum range 11.9. Armor piercing, they do a maximum damage of 2,500. They hold the same shell velocity, 870 meters a second, and again the 11.9 kilometer range. With the more upgraded torpedoes are long-range torpedoes. These have a reload time of 71.1 seconds when we built into it with the commander. Otherwise, it'd be about 79 seconds. Not building into it. Torpedo speed, torpedo range 8 kilometers. Maximum damage 14,400. Torpedo speed 63 knots. Detectability range 1.2 kilometers. Depth charges. Not too long ago, these got a buff to the line. Where I think they improved both the maximum damage that these do, and pushing it over 2,000, so 2,100. You get 2 charges, and then went from 6 bombs on a charge to 10 bombs on a charge, and reload time of 40 seconds. So that was a welcome buff in my mind to here on the Anshan as you start seeing submarines at tier 6. Consumable wise, standard for a damage control party, 5-second action time, cooldown time 40 seconds. So you have the smoke generator consumable, action time 20 seconds, smoke screen dispersion time 81 seconds, cooldown time is 160 seconds, so you're going to be waiting about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So when you do utilize your smokes, you saw me more using them for my ally, my clanmate yesterday, and he's in the Grasp Bay, giving him a helping hand. You can use them of course for yourself as well, but if you do, just make sure that you're going to get the mileage out of it, since you have to wait for such a long cooldown time for the smoke screen. Engine boost is plus 8%, action time 120 seconds. We talked about building up to 56 seconds if you were to go for the engine boost mod in the second slot. Cooldown time 120 seconds. You get 4 of these consumables. Again, this is also because of commander. We have superintendent, otherwise you'd only get 3 smokes and 3 engine boost. We can also take November Foxtrot, which I actually quite enjoyed taking on destroyers. Many ships in the game, where we can get our ship consumable preparation and reload time down by -5%. So then our damage control party is ready in 38 rather than 40. Smoke is ready in 152 versus, was that 160, right? Is what I said. And then engine boost, instead of 120, it's 114. Now in terms of the combat signals, I think overall how I like to build the destroyer out, I think just standard wise like this. If I really want to increase my fire chance, then of course I'll go ahead and bump that up from the 7% to the 8%. I always take the Hotel Yankee because there's possibilities you end up ramming a ship, right? You're increasing your flooding chance, increasing the action time of your smoke generator. So that's just all around good to have. But if you were like bare minimum, then I would be like, I would say this is kind of the bare minimum. I mean, these aren't too expensive if I recall correctly, but I like at least running with these 6. In terms of our commander, so I'm going to yoink this commander off, but I'm going to go ahead and show you a very general torpedo build. Now, I think we actually could also do something else here in terms of the torpedoes, but this is me running a commander that comes from the armory. I believe there's one for 35,000 coal and one for 35,000 coal and one for 1,500 doubloons. So one of the reasons I like running him, because he's trained for Yu Yang, is that he has the enhanced skill, the survivability expert. So we get plus 400 versus plus 350. So if I redo my math from what I had said wrong earlier, we get 2,100 additional hit points for a standard enhanced skill. But for here, in taking the for the enhanced skill, we actually will end up having 2,400 hit points. So we get a larger survivability, which I do like. Gives you some flexibility here at the mid tiers. So I just want to show you this because this is what was in yesterday's video. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put him back on Yu Yang. I'm blind as a bat. Yu Yang, There it is. It's like, where the heck is Yu Yang? So we're going to throw him back on Yu Yang. I'm going to come back into Anshan. And then I'm going to, as an example, I'm going to go ahead and put Jinan. This is a unique commander here in the game. That name. Okay, I'll make a crack at it. Sao Zhenbing. Perhaps I'm right, perhaps I'm totally wrong. So we've already begun to build out. This is 16-point commander. We're training if you haven't trained for Jinan. But here's an example if you wanted to run the unique commander here on the Anshan and set him up for Anshan. Now note, he has some talents and personalizations. One is if you get the combat scout, your main battery reload time is reduced by -20%. So that's really nice. We're not a CV, so planes don't count. Torpedo attack expert activates once per battle upon hitting enemy ships with torpedoes 6 times. So we had like 9 torpedoes in yesterday's game. So then we get the natural buff of the +5% here. And the other thing they did was the torpedo reload booster consumable, which we don't have here in Anshan, so that would go to waste. So basically all you're looking at out of this is getting faster torpedoes and slightly less reaction time from the enemy to dodge said torpedoes. And then you also have emergency supplies, which this is going to be a little more difficult to do at tier 6 in terms of getting 1.5 million hit points of potential damage earned. And that can stack, so like 3 million, 4.5 million. And your ship consumable preparation reload time is reduced by 6.5%. Now, do I think this is like the best commander to run here on Anshan? Not as much. I probably prefer more running one of the commanders that has the survivability expert enhanced skill. So then we're getting, instead of that 16,500, we get 16,800. But I digress. So let's go and talk about this, because then I can show you some different ways to build out. So the bread and butter for over 90%, 95% destroyers in the game is going your first 10 points walking down this line. Preventive maintenance reduces the risk of modules becoming incapacitated by -30%. You do have now the slight buff on these for your secondary battery survivability and AA mount survivability, but we don't get secondaries on Anshan. And your AA is meh. It's not so great here at tier 6, so that's not what you're really looking to do here on the destroyer. But you know, when we're building into reducing risk of our main turrets, torpedo tubes, steering gears, engine becoming incapacitated, this is very helpful. And then for a 3-point commander, you want to take Last Stand. This ship remains partially able to sustain speed and maneuverability with the engine and steering gears incapacitated. Not taking Last Stand means if your rudder gets knocked out, you're stuck in whatever direction you are in. Or if you get your engine knocked out, then you're a dead duck in the water waiting for your damage control party to come off of cooldown. So this is really important to run. But you still get penalized. It's not as great, but at least you're not a sitting duck, and at least you're not stuck going in circles, right? Then survivability expert, boosting our hit points up by plus 350. Really good in total to have here on the Anshan. You should really look at running this on pretty much most all your destroyers in the game. Again, over like 95% of destroyers in the game, I'd say, should really be taking survivability expert with not enhanced, right? We're 2,000, oops, that's main battery, 16,500 here. And then 10-point commander is building into your concealment. So you have pretty good concealment here at tier 6. When I was comparing with the other tier 6 destroyers, it's kind of what I thought. It's not the best in the game, but it's not the worst in the game. It's really in the mid running of the groups of the tier 6 destroyers with concealment. I think Agla is among the worst, as an example, like 7.5, I think, starting out with. But here with Anshan, you know, when we have these torpedoes that do 8-kilometer range, when we take the upgraded version of the torpedoes, then you have this 1.7 kilometer gap in between stealth firing your torpedoes, or you can even go a little bit beyond that, right? If you're torpedoing a target, it's 9 kilometers away, but he's pushing into you as you're in turn kiting away from him, right? So it's actually really nice. So I do like building into that aspect here. You saw we got a lot of usage of these 8-kilometer torpedoes yesterday. I think there was a Warspite we torpedoed. We torpedoed a cruiser. We torpedoed another cruiser. We torpedoed a battleship. So that really makes this ship feel quite comfortable and easy for me to recommend to take Consummate Expert here on this Tier 6 destroyer. After that, I would suggest going for Adrenaline Rush, regardless if you build into torpedoes or you build into the guns. For each 1% of HP lost, your main battery reload time is reduced, torpedo tube reload time is reduced, and then your continuous AA damage gets a slight buff. Again, it's not really so much for the AA, but you're taking this more for your torpedoes and your main battery. So as an example, if I pull up artillery, right now it's a 5-second reload time. So then you see 4.9, 4.8, 4.7, 4.6, depending on how much the percentage of hit points that you have lost. Your torpedoes, I think I checked it. If you got down to like 20 seconds, sorry, not 20 seconds, 20%, you can actually get your torpedoes just under, was it just under a minute, 59 seconds if you take filled tubes, and your hit points are that low. So that's another nice thing in running the Adrenaline Rush here for a 13-point commander. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you what I would do in talking about torpedoes. So if you're going for that torpedo build, next I would look at taking filled tubes. So again, we kind of just referenced this, but we get the reload time down from 79 seconds to 71.1 seconds. So really good to have. Of course, again, you're still going to have other torpedo destroyers that have a better reload time. I think Shinanomi and I think Fubuki also have slightly better reload times. But this is really nice, and this type of hybrid destroyer, I guess, is the best way to define the Anshan, that we can build her into the torpedoes here. And then it kind of comes down to you here. Do you want to go ahead and build into the speed? So now these torpedoes are going 63 knots versus just 60 knots. But then that leaves you with just 3 skill points, because now we're talking about a 17-point commander with now, with 3 points remaining, 18-point commander. Yeah, it's 2-point skill, sorry. 18-point commander with 3 points left, right? So then do you want that 4th engine boost? Do you want that 4th smoke screen, right? That's where it kind of comes down to you. Or you're like, nah, I really want to build into, I want to go for it fully. I'm increasing the chance of the torpedoes causing flooding. Then that leaves you with 2 skill points. So then maybe now you're looking at priority target as an example. But I think like what you saw with the Yu Yang commander I had on, this is the build that I liked running here. There's some flexibility in terms of what do you want to do after you've gone like this as an example. Now on the flip side, there's also something else we can do here. I don't always recommend this on destroyers in the game, but Anshan is an exception. We might start talking about Swift and Silence here. We do take a hit on our main battery. We get a plus 0.3, so it's a 5.3 second reload time rather than just a 5-second reload time. But we get a ship speed of plus 8%, which I just referenced earlier with the Sierra mic and combat signal and running the plus 8% engine boost. And then you go ahead and take Swift and Silence here. So I think I actually have to do my math again. So if we were at 39.9 with Sierra mic, and then we take the engine boost, that takes us up to 43. And then if we do Swift and Silence, which is also plus 1.8%, or 8%, excuse me, times 1.08, then we're looking at 46.5 knots for a tier 6 destroyer, 46.5 knots. Like, that's pretty crazy. So this really I find alluring to build into. Now again, this is Swift and Silence. When you're not detected, this is when you get that 46.5 knot speed. So, you could be, this really cheeky torpedo at tier 6, torpedo destroyer at tier 6, running around, torping, and getting across the map very quickly, right? But we've had to get a superintendent, so then we don't get the 4 engine boost, we don't get the 4 smoke screen. But you maybe you're using more smoke for your allies, and while you're trying to stay in silence while torpedoing, right? And And then that leaves you with 1 point left. So then you're like, oh, do I want to take chances of causing flooding plus 30%? Or am I looking at grease the gears because I want to get my turret traverse down to 22.7 seconds, okay? So I think that's quite cheeky to do here. I think if I was like referencing my Yu Yang build, I think that it might be very possible that I would actually really want to run Swift and Silence here on the Anshan because it's just so unique as a tier 6 destroyer to go at those speeds. You can get yourself out of trouble really fast, but you can also get yourself into trouble really fast, right? So then it's just kind of like, oh, what would I want to do here? The 1 point really is flexible for you to spend how you want. But I think that's the other cheeky thing you can do here with the Anshan here at tier 6. Now let's say you want to build into the guns. How would we want to go about doing that? Well, we're going to ignore fill the tubes. I would go ahead and skip over to main battery in AA specialist. So our artillery, our reload time now has gone down to 4.8 from 5 seconds. Oh, that for some reason says minus 0.3. Okay, weird. 4.8 seconds. And then we do get a slight AA buff for continuous damage, but I mean, that's not really crazy. Your AA range kind of sucks already on this destroyer, only being 3.5 kilometer range, so you're not taking the skill for AA, you're taking it to get the reload down. In addition to the adrenaline rush ticking, you know, if you start losing some hit points. And then maybe I'm even cheeky again, and I go for Fearless Brawler. Where again we're going to slight buff to the AA, but it's the can be activated skill here of reducing the main battery reload time when your ship remains detected by an enemy ship. So that 4.8 seconds. Let me go back to this. So I'm having to do math on the fly here. We go down to 4.32 seconds on our reload time, taking the Fearless Brawler, and then I would go for Grease the Gears, right? So if you're going for the main battery build, then we want to be able to utilize our guns even more and shave off some more of that turret traverse time. This would be a very easy example to do here because you're utilizing your speed. You're utilizing the engine boost in being a 43 knot destroyer running around, opening up with your 4 130mm guns. Alternatively, you could build out more into the range, right? Main battery firing range plus 20%, so now you're hitting targets 14.3 kilometers away, and you get more of an AA buff. Now here's the argument I'm going to make here and why I don't think Anshan is the best for being a gunboat build destroyer, because I would just be like, if you're going to do this, you know, and you're going to give up even concealment and go for Fearless Brawler, why not just take the Agla, right? Agla, as a tier 6 destroyer, she has better range, she gets 5 guns, she has a slightly better reload time than the Anshan. Her torpedoes do hit a little harder, but her concealment is much worse than the Anshan. So I'd be like, just get Agla and build Agla out for a gun build, okay? But I'm showing you the possibilities here if you wanted to take Anshan out as a torpedo destroyer. Not that I necessarily recommend, as I feel, you know, doing something like this, going something like, it depends on how you want to swing it. You're not supposed to be detected, so you probably don't really need incoming fire alert, right? So if you want to do something like this, more, or if you want to be more safer, like you're a destroyer player who tends to live for the last half of the battle, then I'd see like, yeah, Superintendent is probably like this build here. Like you saw of us running here, saw us running here on the Yu Yang, which again, if I pop that off and you get to see our Yu Yang commander, I kind of like it a little more because of having the additional hit points. But, you know, how fun is it that you can likely activate the talent here and get faster torpedoes? And if you did pick up Combat Scout, then your main battery reload time is actually going to be reduced, but you're kind of banking on that helping to shave off the added time if you were to do the Swift and Silence as an example. I think this would be fun to do here on the Anshan. Otherwise, just this one. This is probably the 2 builds I would recommend here. So I've gone over, how dare I was very excited to talk about this destroyer, and there's just a few things, because she's a hybrid destroyer is the best way to define her, and you can build out for more guns, you can build her more for the torpedoes. I think she favors the torpedoes, because there's other better gunboats at tier 6 over the Anshan, but she has capability for best of both worlds, so to speak. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. And next week, we'll get in all the details about the 2,000 subscriber giveaway. So until next time, take care.